Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for your patience. Welcome to what we have dubbed the Updating the Faithful, the first in a series, a brand new feature in the Archdiocese of Agana, which we'll hold on the first week of every month. Essentially, just like it sounds, it will be the Archbishop updating the faithful on different issues, initiatives, and efforts of our Archdiocese. But with an added element of each month, we're going to introduce a different group or members of our Archdiocese of Agana. This is to help promote the many good groups and individuals who are doing good things in our Archdiocese in these extraordinary times. So I will introduce everyone just to help everyone, and then for the media's sake, I will have a list of our participants. Of course, our Archbishop Michael Byrnes, to the right. To his right, Mr. from the Task Force for the Protection of Minors that you have heard so much about, and they've been doing so much good work at our schools and now parishes. Mr. Vince Beretta, to his extreme right, to his immediate right, that is, and next to Mr. Beretta is the chairperson of the task force, Miss Sarah Thomas Nedidog. Thank you. Two other members of the task force who are not present with us today, but have been working really hard. Mr. John Weisenberger is off island, and husband and wife dynamic duo, Ray Fernandez and Fina Fernandez, are not with us today. They have, Fina has a class that she's attending to. And from our schools and parishes, members of our Catholic community that have been participating in the task force training. From my left to right, there's Laila Lohan. Laila Lohan, counselor with Bishop Gardner Memorial School, and she's followed by Ms. Rita Duenas, the principal of Bishop Gardner. And we have Sister Dorothy Laterre from Academy of Our Lady of KUAM. She's also one of our victims outreach contact person. And to her left is Ms. Rosie Creelman from Assumption of Our Lady Parish in Petey. Also joining us is Ms. Tricia Tenorio, the coordinator of our Safe Environment Office. So thank you once again. I'd like to introduce Archbishop Byrnes.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm particularly happy to be sharing this because it's not about me and about what I'm doing, but it's what our lay faithful are doing. And this is a particularly important task that these brothers and sisters have been engaged in over the last several months, and particularly appropriate for celebrating highlighting this month of awareness of sexual assault and child abuse. So my main role here is to say thanks to you all for really taking the lead and providing some really effective measures through the training to equip our parishioners, our teachers, even our students to be aware of the signs of child abuse and to have measures to learn how to engage themselves in prevention. And so that's really important. And so I've been really grateful for these brothers and sisters. Since this is not so much about me, it's about them, I'd like to invite Ms. Sarah Nedidog, the chairman of this task force, to share with us a few of her thoughts.
Thank you, Archbishop Byrnes. About a year ago, Father Jefferson Nicolas, who's now our Vicar General, and Archbishop Hahn at the time approached us as citizens and as persons in the community who are professionals in various related disciplines and very much interested in what we could do as parishioners and faithful Catholics to help deal with the emerging issues of child sexual abuse in our community. And when he approached us, it was really an easy sell. He asked us to get together and develop an educational program to help the parishioners and the schools know much better what the mandatory reporting law was all about, to understand the issues of boundaries and the importance of setting those boundaries and respecting them, and teaching and supporting children to be more empowered to protect themselves as well. And so we got together, and I'll tell you, I've had the opportunity to know all the members of the task force for many, many years. They're lifelong colleagues and have been committed to this work with vulnerable individuals in our community. So none of us are strangers to this work. And we are joined by Vince Pareda, who's a clinical social worker who has worked with both victims and perpetrators for many, many years. And I always say he's our on-island expert in this area. And we're joined by attorney John Weisenberger, who I've always described him as being an undercover social worker, because all the work that he has done through his life here on Guam, which is probably close to as many years as I've spent, nearly 40 years, has been in advocating and supporting vulnerable members of our community. And then we have Ray and Vina Fernandez, who are retired police officers and are very skilled in investigation and in, as well as knowing all these fine details about perpetrators and about prospective victims. So I think we have such an awesome team, and we were very, as I've said, it was an easy sell for us to come together and develop a program that we could take to the parishes, to the schools. We actually finished all 14 schools, I believe, by the end of the year, which was our goal of 2015 to complete going to all the schools. And so I want to say, first of all, that the schools have been absolutely open and receptive and welcoming to us in this effort. And then we turned our attention to parishes. And about that same time, we expanded our presentation to include an opening by Archbishop Byrnes, and he talks very clearly, or in the presentation talks very clearly about the Church's position to protect the most vulnerable, especially our children in the schools and in the parishes and in our community. So we're so pleased for that addition. And then, of course, we also now have a presentation that speaks to the policies that we're all now focused on and make sure that we're all implemented. So I just want to say that the parishes, the faculty, everyone has been quite open and responsive. We've gotten great questions out there, and I'm sure we'll hear a little bit more from our other co-presenters here today to talk about their own experiences. But I really believe that we've come a long way to rebuilding our integrity and our credibility in our church. And I think we feel much more educated and equipped to protect our children and our vulnerable residents from any type of abuse in the future. So a very strong and very deep appreciation to the Chancery for their leadership in supporting us in doing this good work. We're open to any questions. I think we have others that would now. Vince, did you want to add to our presentation?
Yeah, you covered it pretty well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now let's hear from our grassroots, the people. I won't say trenches, because our schools and parishes are hardly the trenches, but really at the front lines. First we'll hear from Lila from Bishop Gardner. And she'll talk about the training, but she'll also talk about one exciting aspect, which is the curriculum on sexual abuse prevention that she and others in our schools have been part of. Lila?
Thank you and good afternoon. My name is Lila Lujan. I'm the counselor at Bishop of Gardner Memorial Catholic School. And through the help of the KUAM Coalition Against Sexual Assault and Family Violence under the direction of Ms. Cynthia Cabot, our private school, elementary schools, were very fortunate enough to be trained as well in the SAPC, which is the Sexual Abuse Prevention Curriculum, which is a curriculum from K-2, which is called My Body is Special, and then there's a curriculum from 3rd to 5th grade, which is My Body, My Boundaries. And so through the Reliance Grant, public schools were fortunate enough to be trained in this curriculum that all of our Catholic elementary schools have been trained in. And when training began in October through sometime in February, all Catholic elementary schools were very much encouraged and excited to be able to implement this new curriculum to be able to give our students more knowledge and more awareness of prevention measures and skills that they could have under their belt as well in this curriculum. So we're very fortunate, and we look forward to training our middle and high school schools and teachers and students in another module that we hope to train in this coming, towards the ending of the month of April. Thank you.
Thank you, Lila. I will ask Rita Duenas, the principal, to share her thoughts about the training that went on at her school.
Good afternoon. My name is Rita Duenas. I'm the principal of Bishop Gardner Memorial Catholic School. We have been very blessed with the presence of the task force at our school. As Ms. Sarah mentioned, we did receive training before the end of 2016, and our teachers were very receptive to the training, in particular in the areas of mandatory reporting, as well as setting and following boundaries. The teachers, although this is part of their annual training that we do with CPS, it was nice to have the experts in the field be present to answer questions and to get more in depth, which we don't necessarily have that opportunity with CPS. So we're very blessed to have that. The other thing is we're also blessed because Lila, who's on the commission, is also an employee of the school. She's our counselor. We did receive training in the SAPC curriculum, and we did have parents who shared that they were happy that we were providing that curriculum for our elementary students. And as she mentioned, we are looking forward to the curriculum for our middle school students. So once again, I guess the most important thing for me is that all of our teachers are comfortable with the knowledge that they have, which was a result of this initiative. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Rita. It's my privilege to introduce Sister Dorothy Laterre from Academy of Our Lady of Guam, who is also one of our victims' contact person, victims outreach contact person. Sister Dorothy.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm very privileged to be here to talk to you today. The administration, faculty, and staff of the Academy of Our Lady of Guam want to thank the Archdiocese for creating the task force for the protection of minors. We also express our gratitude to the members of the task force who came to our school to impress upon us the importance of safe boundaries in relationships. Equally beneficial was the information on how to recognize if children have been molested by being aware of certain physical factors as well as their behavior. It was also helpful to learn or refresh our memories on CPS referral procedures. Each of us in our Academy School family plays an important part in the lives of our students every day. Therefore, special bonds are built between us. Hopefully, our young people feel free to share their stories of abuse with us, be it a teacher, a counselor, our maintenance personnel, office workers, or a coach. We pray to God that each of us in these positions is looked upon as approachable and deemed trustworthy in the eyes of our students, so that they may call upon us to help them to be their safe place to fall. The Task Force for the Protection of Minors dedicates itself to preventing abuse as well as responding to allegations of such behavior. In this month of April, marked as Child Abuse Prevention Month, it was awesome to see in the calendar of events that daycare presentations will be made on good and bad touch. And now it's even more awesome to know that Bishop Baumgartner is implementing their program at their school and hopefully sharing it with all the rest of us. I think it is so necessary to reach out to the children themselves and provide educational programs for them according to their level of understanding. It's time for letting our kids be kids, to laugh and to play, to watch bugs crawl, to imitate barking frogs, to engage in sports, to discover new things, to play with their cats and dogs, to dream about what they want to be when they grow up. At such young ages, they don't need to be carrying around the burden of being sexually mistreated and living with feelings of shame and guilt, betrayal and despair, and carrying these into adulthood. May our Archdiocese be successful in its continuing efforts to bring healing and reconciliation to the victims and survivors of sexual abuse, and do all in its power to prevent such abuse from ever happening again. As we continue on this journey, may Jesus, our good and gentle shepherd, bless our efforts to bring peace to those who are still hurting, as we continue to work on ways to provide a safe environment for all our children. Thank you again for all that you are doing for all of God's children, be they very young or adults. May many blessings be yours for your generosity of spirit, your compassion, and your love. God bless you all.
God bless you, sister. The next representative is representative of one of about a dozen parishes, just a little short of a dozen parishes who have received training by the task force members. She has a lot of energy as the director of youth ministry, and she's a Petra from Assumption of Our Lady from Pidi, Miss Rosie Crone.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you for everyone for being here. It's an important event. I am Mrs. Rosie Cronin with the Assumption of Our Lady Parish. The Child Protection Task Force is very important in assisting with awareness. It gives information and tools at the parish level to help youth ministers and adults understand and inform the youth to understand the boundaries in sexual misconduct. In that once reported, the child or youth knows the perpetrator will be removed, and that the priest, the deacon, or bishop who committed the sexual abuse cannot be transferred to ministerial assignment. How the youth and the parents can work together with the adult volunteers and parish youth ministers on knowing what to do with sexual misconduct and how it can be properly reported to officials. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cronin. And representative representing, she's not up here, but she's definitely with us, Ms. Sharon O'Malley from St. Francis, the first parish to receive the training. Ms. Sharon.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz. I didn't know I was supposed to have a speech. Everyone had papers and speeches. I am like that. Okay, and when Ms. Tricia told me, I thought I was just going to watch from the audience here. So we were the first parish to receive the training simply because when I first heard the Archdiocese was going to do a training, I said, oh, sign us up. Because our parish, St. Francis Church in Jobnia, has been doing in-house training for abuse watching for the last 7 to 8 years already. Every year, a representative from the Attorney General's office, Mr. Basil Mallon, he's an assistant Attorney General, and at the same time he happens to be in charge of the sex crimes unit at the Attorney General's office, so he's been the perfect trainer for us, has been training us and teaching us how. And I know a lot of this has to do with reporting sex abuse and stuff like that. But in my CCD program, we see these children once an hour every week. And most of my teachers are actual teachers in real life. So our training must be on-the-spot training. And so it's really rough. They come in with attitudes from the house, and they got all this, and we got parents with all these issues, drop-off of separated kids, and this is the drop-off point. Parents are mad at parents, and so we're in the middle of all of this. This is a constant battle that the parishes see. The schools have a nice situation where they have them all day, and they have them in controlled situations, but in the parish levels, it's really hard. We have a lot of things going on every Sunday, Saturday, whenever we approach these kids. And so our approach was how to prevent a situation to happen like that. We were trained how to protect ourselves from protecting and protect our children at the same time, our students. And that's what our training was done by Mr. Basil O'Malley from the ladies' office. We also had some discussions with CPS and stuff like that, so that we're never left alone with a child. We assist each other if we're reminding each other. Our aides walk to the restroom. Someone's watching, they never step into the bathroom. We need to keep our parish safe. We need to keep us safe, because one word from one child about us, who only see a child 1 hour a Saturday or Sunday, it will ruin all of us. And so, and the Archdiocese, and the parishes, and the church, and et cetera, it doesn't end. So this year we held off our in-house training because we heard of the Archdiocese training. And this time we also included the rest of some of our ministries in the parish. So it was great. It was a very nice training. Mr. Weisenberger, Mr. Pareda, and the couple, they were very good. Thank you so much for that training. So it was a different aspect, watching how we can protect our children, because, like I said, there's a lot that goes on CCD, and there's so much fast movement, drop-off, mass, choo-choo, in the classroom, in the blah, blah, blah. There's so much activity on a CCD. You got to see it sometimes, and there's so many of them. You know, like 100 kids in one fast shot. And you got to keep an eye on all of that. And I'm so glad, I'm so proud of their CCD program and the teachers who work under me. They say I'm the boss. I'm like, no, they are the boss. My hat's off. I truly would be nowhere without those wonderful CCD teachers who sacrifice all their time and effort to do this. They're wonderful. And they take the time, they come for the training, they do everything they can to assist. And because they're also, a lot of them are public school teachers, they have a lot of teaching and training in the public school systems about identifying abuse and stuff like that. They're so fast and quick. You see some of my teachers will, oh, this child must be having a bad day, and come, blah, blah, blah. They can spot problems real fast. And that's the luxury of having a lot of public school teachers in our program, so it's great. And as to the Archdiocese training, thank you. It needs to be continued, and my thing is, like I asked Ms. Tricia Tenorio, we were teaching and training the adults in our parish. We're going to start working on the outer servers, because they're young. And there's a lot of times that the kids are left alone with each other, and I have gone to the back and sometimes just to monitor, just to step out kids into the public, inside the church area when they're waiting for the next mass. There's a lot of little things like that that have to be watched and cared and things of. So I don't know if that was the speech I was Thank you so much.
Really helpful to give you a glimpse of the life of our people in the front lines. We want to note that the parishes that have been trained by our good members of the task force, St. Francis and Jordan Assumption of Our Lady, Pini, San Isidro Malolo, and St. Joseph in Iran. Some members of those parishes might be here as well. I apologize if I didn't introduce you, but by all means, if you want to add your input, you're welcome to. Anybody?
I didn't write a speech, but I wrote words to remind me what to.
Sure. Great, you're welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Ruth Timelo, and I'm from the parish of San Isidro. We did complete our training on the protection of children and youth, and I know that we are working diligently to move from, and I know that that's one of the goals and desires we have, to move from proactive to protective to move from being reactive to being more proactive and more protective. I think we've come a long ways where we're reacting in many situations, and we're stepping closer to being more proactive and protective of our children. So that's our desire. In our training, we did cover the different components, the very important components of relationship boundaries, and what we can do to help our children become advocates for themselves, to help them to know how to protect themselves and to be more empowered. That was a really wonderful component and a very important one that we really need to highlight and concentrate on. There was another component that is also important that our parish is now having great discussions on, and that's how to be more protective, what we can do to help us recognize all the warning signs, to understand what the different abuses are. I know that the Catholic Church, we've been focusing on sexual abuse, but we've also have physical abuse, emotional, and mental abuse. And so we're looking at helping us to be more aware of what those different warning signs are. And our parish members are feeling more confident because they know what to do and how to do it in order to report. I think we've moved from being the steps where we used to ignore. I remember in the 70s when I was a teenager and a young youth, where if we said something, we immediately got, shh, no, we don't talk about those things. And we've moved from being at that point of ignoring and being silent to now we're able to speak up, to pay attention, to stand up. And I think that's a step that our community and our parish is now becoming stronger about doing. We no longer want to ignore, we want to understand and believe, and then we want to be able to act and do something that will help our children in the future. So those are, we're realizing we're making these steps and these changes. The one thing that I'd like to see in the components, we talked about children in the Catholic schools and they're getting a curriculum. We've talked about our children in the CCD programs who come maybe 1 hour a week, and a lot of those children don't come consistently. They come when it's getting close to Holy Communion. They come when it's getting close to confirmation, and then we lose them. So we have at-risk families. We have students also, maybe they're getting because DOE has good curriculums and they've got good components in the public schools. But we're missing a chunk of the family, which is where our child abuse is coming from. Our at-risk families who may not attend church, who may not be active participants in our communities, who may be a little bit more isolated, maybe have struggles. I'm hoping that there's a component where we can reach out to these families to help them recognize what child abuse is. When you have a child stay home to babysit so you can go out and do what you need to do and they miss school or they're truant because of it, that's child abuse. A lot of our families don't recognize those other types of child abuse. But how do we reach out to our at-risk families? How do we connect them back to our churches, our parishes, our community? What is it that we need to do to help them develop coping skills for being maybe the stresses in life? What are some things we can teach our at-risk families and even our families of our CCD kids, our Catholic school students? They encounter daily stresses, they encounter frustration, they encounter anger that we may need to help develop skills to deal with those and thereby minimizing child abuse. So that we're working more towards prevention and more towards the protection of children, and becoming or doing reactive measures is further down the road. And our concentration is on protection and prevention. So we enjoyed our training. I think that was the one component that we saw that we might need to strengthen. And I know that there's some really key things already out there keeping our children's environment safe, and one of that is the mandatory background checks and the mandatory court and police clearances. That's our first step to shutting the doors and keeping our children safe and keeping their environments happy and carefree and wonderful for children to be in. So I think that's our only component that we'd like to see. What we can do, we're researching how do we make those outreaches and how do we make those connections. Okay, thank you.
Teachers Mahasi Ruth. Want to introduce Trisha, Ms. Trisha Tenorio, the coordinator, our Safe Environment Coordinator. You may know, in fact, I'm sure all of you know, this is Child Abuse Prevention Month, as well as Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Trisha is one of the persons taking the lead and working with the parish and schools in different ways we're commemorating the many people who have suffered in this area. Trisha?
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to first of all thank again the task force members for going out to our parishes. So far we've completed St. Francis, Assumption of Our Lady, and St. Joseph and San Isidro. And tonight there will be a training at Santa Teresita, and this Saturday will be at Immaculate Heart of Mary. So thank you again to all the parishes that have been very receptive and welcoming to our task force members for their hard and diligent work. Thank you for Archbishop Byrnes and very supportive in making sure that we express sincerely and go forward with preventing child abuse and even to stop child abuse. And in the month of April, we've joined with other parishes and the Catholic schools in recognizing the Child Abuse Prevention Month. So when you go into the parishes, you will see a lighted candle with a blue ribbon, and that's to join again in the National Child Abuse Prevention Month. And in that candle that's lit, we also offer our prayers for healing victim survivors of abuse. And again, thank you, and we continue to appreciate the support and as we continue to schedule all the training in our parishes so we can make sure that our environment is safe within the Archdiocese of Agana.
Thank you, Trisha. I know it's a lengthy lineup, but as you have seen, it's been very helpful. So I'd like to again call Archbishop Byrnes. Maybe we'll take a couple of questions, and then Archbishop will close the session.
Any questions? Krystal?
Okay, so you talked about all 14 schools and now the parishes are being trained. Are there efforts to partner with the Department of Education to implement these trainings in their schools?
Well, I think you've already mentioned the KUAM Coalition is probably partnered with them with the curriculum, employing the curriculum in the various schools. And we are making some outreaches to various members. I don't have the exact people that we've contacted to partner with them for things like legal referral, victims assistance, counseling, that kind of thing. I'm sorry, I don't have the exact details on that, but those letters have gone out just this past week.
Archbishop, since the implementation of this task force, have there been any reports of sexual abuse or any type of abuse within the Catholic schools or parishes?
Not active that I've been aware of. There have been a few people who have come forward who do not wish to be, who've talked with Sister Dorothy or the other sexual abuse coordinator about past, some of the past
abuse
events, yeah. So we don't have any active cases being investigated that I know of.
And then just today, your attorney for the lawsuits, representing the Archdiocese in the lawsuit, sought an extension of the deadline to file a response.
Yes.
Is there a reason for that? I mean, is it just because there's so many lawsuits that's filed against the church, or is it because a possible settlement is in the works? Or
yeah. So I'm sure the factors are endless. One concrete factor that is a difference is that the Boy Scouts have now become part of the equation, and so that's one kind of obvious reason.
But they're not being represented by Attorney Terlahi.
No. The Boy Scouts are a whole separate entity. Okay. But, yes.
This is kind of directed towards individuals from Bishop Gardner. I've actually received calls from parents who are interested or would like to change the name of the school. The name Bishop Gardner brings them, pain. Hearing that because he's now listed in the court documents as having known about the alleged abuse. Will there be any efforts to change the school name, or how do we address parents or families that may feel hurt from the name because?
Yeah. So I'm aware of that particular. And as far as I know right now, it's simply from one person. Taking it seriously, but it's one of those situations that's going to have to be. It's going to take a while for us to kind of discern the way forward, because there's going to be at least two sides to the question. There might be several more sides. So, but yes, I'm aware of that request.
This is, I think it was Ms. O'Malley who mentioned this. You mentioned something about altar servers who are not supervised. Could you elaborate a little bit more on what you meant by that?
Yeah, a lot of times altar servers will come and their parents will drop them because they're going to serve the Mass, and they'll wait for the next Mass and the next Mass. We have some like that, and it worries me sometimes because fortunately our program is on Sunday, so I see that, and I usually keep a track on where they're at and stuff like that, and that there's someone, but it just worries me sometimes. I'll just go to the back just to make sure they're not just alone with somebody else, because one time I did have to remind someone, hey, excuse me, and they're completely innocent, but the thought was there that this was an older altar server with a younger altar server, and I said, hey guys, come on out, come out to the front here, nobody alone, and they're like, oh, they were still not sure about what I was saying, but I'm sorry, I just had to put my...
This is given the environment of the, sexual abuse.
Well, this is just from my respect, as I'm there for the CCD program at that time.
But this is the kind of thing that this training prompts.
Yes, and
there should never be alone.
Yes, and that's what I'm thinking.
And that's one of those great opportunities when you do a training like this. She's not the only one thinking about it. There are other people who say, oh, and everybody goes, oh, right, yeah. So it's one of those mutual reinforcement kind of opportunities. That's a real benefit of this training.
Yeah.
If that church may not be the only concern, because we
may
have
not.
it as
I'm
well
sure it's
as
not the only.
It's
for the altar service.
Again,
we've got CCD students who are supervised by their teachers. We have all the other activities that are supervised by an adult. But the most at-risk group is our altar servers who have the least supervision.
Sure.
Because of the way the scheduling is.
Exactly, that's the whole point
Yeah.
of raising that topic, so.
And-
But again, this is the great fruit of, we wouldn't be thinking about this if it weren't for this training, right? So.
Yes, because with me, I mean, I'm bringing up other issues, but yeah, I brought it up in the parish level too, so we're probably going to work with it soon. What it is that a lot of the altar server leaders are the heads of the altar servers, and the younger ones get dropped there and are supervised by the older altar servers who are perhaps just maybe 16, 17, 18 years old, and the younger altar servers are boys or girls who are just 7, 8, 9 years old, and they're waiting for the rest to come. There's one older altar server, one younger altar server. It's just an open problem.
Yeah,
there needs to be a better way of meeting with a group. Sometimes I'm just amazed.
But you're just the kind of person that instigate that in your parish, and so
Yeah.
we're hoping that other parents will instigate those kinds of measures in the parish.
Has there ever been any complaint from any of the parents about that?
In Georgia?
In any parishes that you're aware of?
Not that
Not that I'm aware of,
but
no.
it is a concern.
But yeah, but
because
this,
of the
again,
training
this
we
is
have.
what you start thinking about when you go through this kind of thing. It's important.
Archbishop, has the Archdiocese started the actual background investigation? Legal background
What was the
So we started
investigation for
the
those-
background checks.
For volunteers?
Not yet. We will be.
We're still trying to
There are
locate
some.
there's a financial issue about that too. But we're trying to
We're working
locate
on
the
that.
right kind of, there are different groups that do that kind of thing. And of course, we'll need, it's not just local here, it can also be international stuff that we're looking at, so.
So it's going to be the Archdiocese that will fund.
We're still,
the
I think we're still
investigation.
working that one out, yeah, but it's gonna cost something about doing that, those background checks, so, yeah.
I'm sorry, Archbishop, since you brought that up, I'm very curious in the parish level. The question in my parish level is, some of the other people were concerned. The church cleaners who have no exposure to the children, they come during the week. The Eucharistic ministers, the lecturers, they come there, they do their readings, blah, blah, blah. I mean, there will be some parameters as to who the court clearances will have to be from. I mean, basically the CCD people, those are,
Yeah, we're
they
working all
contact
that
the
stuff
altar
out.
servers,
Yeah, we've got a new
but
policy.
I don't think it has to meet all ministries, right? I mean, we'll cut down on some of them.
Yeah, it
Finances.
takes a little discernment. Anything that deals with children, it's gotta be done.
Yeah.
Maybe one more question and then we'll wrap it up.
Well, I guess this is directed for task force
Great.
members. Maybe Vince or Sarah can talk briefly about, what are the warning signs for parents who maybe the children go to Catholic schools? What are the warning signs we should look for? Also, what should parents do? I know it's just a sensitive topic. What they learn in school might be a little different from how parents talk at home. And who do they call if they suspect something? So.
Set it up to Vince.
Okay, what are the warnings? There are probably a lot of warnings. Parents, I think overall, should be alert to any significant changes in the behavior of their children. If they notice that their children are depressed or sad when they normally aren't, that might be a red flag to make an inquiry as to why that's happening. But it's mostly noticing changes in children's behavior that come out when an abuse situation occurs. So when a child becomes a victim of abuse, one of the consequences of that is that it does have an immediate impact on their behavior, on their emotional as well as their overall behavior, and that's manifested in a different variety of ways in how they behave towards their peers, interactions, how they interact with other adults, and pretty much how they carry themselves in terms of their demeanor. Okay, and so parents or other people who are very close to these children, who know these children, can pick up on these signs, and if they notice that it's something that they should be concerned about, then that's something that they could take steps to make further inquiry into as to why that occurs. Okay.
Terrific. Trish, if you want to push those around there. We've got a prayer that we'll be praying here in the Archdiocese, for a prayer for healing for victims and survivors of abuse. And so once we get these passed out, I'll ask you to join me in prayer. If you wish. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit,
comfort our hearts, heal your people's wounds, and transform brokenness into wholeness. Grant us the courage and wisdom, humility and grace to act with justice. Breathe wisdom into our prayers and labors. Grant that all harmed by abuse may find peace and justice. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Father, and Son, and Holy Spirit. Thank you all.
So if you are just tuning in, this is the KUAM stream team powered by Docomo with the fastest, most reliable 4G LTE coverage on the island. And Krystal Paco will debrief us as soon as we get outside regarding what Archbishop Byrnes and the task force discussed today.
Let's kind of get out of the way. Hopefully, if you're just tuning in, we're leaving the chancery. We just finished up here at the chancery. It's kind of a lengthy press conference, but it's obvious that the Archdiocese of Agana is making really big effort towards transparency. We're seeing a bunch of series come out. If you read the Omatuna, there's a start. They're starting series, trying to tell people what's going on. We're seeing a financial series. But today's task force, or today's press conference, was relative to the protection of minors task force. This task force was established last year, I believe, right after some of the first allegations surfaced. And this task force consists of social work professionals, as well as former GPD investigators and a former attorney general. We're hearing about their updates. That they've made progress in the last few months. They were able to go to all 14 private schools. That's all 14 private schools, and conduct trainings. This task force, they developed a curriculum, and they were able to conduct trainings at all 14 private schools, and that training includes topics of safe boundaries. What's the proper boundaries for a child, an adult, or another child? Also, that curriculum includes mandated reporting. What we're hearing in a lot of these complaints being filed recently is that adults were told, or mom and dad didn't know, or a priest was told about the alleged abuse, but they didn't do anything about it. And so times have changed. That back then it was you don't talk about the abuse, but nowadays that's definitely changed. Times have changed, and so you come out and you report that abuse. They call authorities right away. An investigation is launched. There's also really interesting, we heard from quite a few of the parishes, as well as the private schools. They're talking about the effectiveness of the curriculum. They're excited. They're seeing a positive feedback from the participants. And again, now these trainings are going from the schools. Now all 14 schools are trained. Now we're going to the parishes. And as part of Child Abuse Prevention Month, which is this month, we're seeing a lot of blue in the church. And we're also going to be hearing this prayer. It's a prayer for healing victims or survivors of abuse. We prayed it at the end of today's press conference. I'll have a summary of what happened at that press conference today. It's kind of a lengthy video already. Just check it out on KUAM later tonight.